drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. Are you looking for the perfect engagement ring? Look no further than Friend & Company Fine Jewelers' new engagement salon. This new area houses a wide selection of engagement rings to choose from in all cuts, sizes, and colors. Their experienced staff offer 5-star customer care to help you find the perfect ring to express your love. Visit their new engagement salon today. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers, the perfect ring for the perfect moment and also for the perfect person. 7713 Maple Street between Adams and Burdett Street. 504-866-5433. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. Check them out at friendandcompany.com. Moe's Barbecue is located in Metairie. They have your game day needs taken care of. Whether you're tailgating or watching the Black and Gold or LSU at home with friends, Moe's has you covered. Order pulled pork, wings, ribs, sides, and more. Come in with the family for lunch and dinner as our kids' meals will please even the pickiest of eaters. Tailgating, parties at home, lunch and dinner, Moe's Barbecue will handle it all. Moe's Original Barbecue, 1101 North Causeway Boulevard between 48th and 49th Street in Metairie. Call 504-407-5333 for your catering order today. 504-407-5333. Moe's Original Barbecue in Metairie. The holidays are a time for giving, and what better gift than the gift of relaxation? With a gift card to Woodhouse Day Spa, your loved ones can choose from a wide range of services to help them de-stress and rejuvenate. Visit their New Orleans, Metairie, Mandeville, Slidell, and Baton Rouge locations today, or visit their website to purchase a gift card and give the gift of relaxation this holiday season. Woodhouse Day Spa, where relaxation is a gift. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. All right, let's get into the show.
Welcome back to PJ's Coffee on Airline Drive. Joining you live on NewOrleans.Football, I'm Brooke Kirchhofer alongside Mike Triplett and Nick Underhill. It's a Matchups Friday. We've got a lot to get to, and especially a very long injury report from Friday's practice that does have many game designations. We're going to get to all of that in today's show.
Yeah, it's almost like the roll call at a hospital waiting room. And if you're in a hospital, it should be the Toro Hospital because they are our presenting sponsor. So if you have medical needs, check them out, the LCMC Network. As Brooke said, check out this PJ's on Airline. Really any PJs in the city, and if you need a new car, hit up our guy Map Hours, best car dealer in the whole entire region, the whole entire country. They'll get you the best prices in and out, so get someone a new ride for the holidays. And if you need to relax, check out Woodhouse Day Spa. They'll get you a massage, a facial, anything you need to do. Yeah, they'll get you right.
Yeah, they took care of us. We appreciate you guys over there. All right, let's get to the lead topic presented by Friend & Company Fine Jewelers, the official jewelers of the New Orleans Saints. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers is home to a new engagement salon where they have a wide selection of engagement rings. And while you're there, ask them about the fleur-de-lis collection of earrings and necklace that you see here. They are specially priced for our NOF audience. I have them on now as well. All right, let's get to the lead topic, this injury report. Who is in and who is out against the Carolina Panthers? Much different than the matchup we saw back in week 2. You're not going to see some guys in this week's matchup that you saw in week 2 and vice versa. Remember, Alvin Kamara was serving that 3-game suspension, which seems like a lifetime ago.
You wrote something about Tony Jones Jr. in the budget.
Tony Jones
Jr. Last year,
that was
wasn't it?
the Tony Jones Jr. game because remember Jamal Williams went out with injury. Tony Jones is not going to be in this matchup. All right, let's get to who is in and who is officially out. Kendre Miller and Isaiah Foskey are both ruled out. Outside of that, it's just a whole lot of questionables. Derek Carr, Cam Jordan, Rashid Shaheed, Juwan Johnson, Pete Werner, Blake Grupe, Chris Olave, Nick Saldiveri, and Taysom Hill. We're going to save that Taysom Hill topic for a little bit later in the show, but let's talk about the quarterback to start off. Derek Carr is listed as questionable, but based on what we're hearing, and also, to be honest, what we saw in practice this week, it looks like he will likely test out of concussion protocol and be ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, just minutes ago I was told that he's fully expected to clear concussion protocol today from a source, so I think we're going to see him play in this game. And then a source told me and Brooke earlier today that Chris Olave's probably going to play in this game. Full expectation is that he'll go too. So that's two big ones for sure in this game. So if those guys play, I think they have a fighting chance. And I think if they don't play, even if one or the other doesn't play, I think that the odds of winning this game go down significantly, specifically Chris Olave. I mean, and that's not to take anything away from Derek Carr. Like, if Carr can't play and Jameis Winston doesn't have Chris Olave, I don't think that you can win this game with the wide receiver group that we saw today. And it was kind of frightening looking out at the field today at practice, seeing who was out there running routes.
Yeah, and I also think Pete Werner, based on practice participation, looks like someone who's going to play. They didn't have him at all last week. Cam Jordan looks like he's trending a little better. He practiced today. After I don't think he practiced at all last week. They expect his snap count to go up. So I think a healthier team than last week, but still not a fully healthy team.
Here's what we know, too. Look, the list of questionables, here's who we know is likely going to be out. Rashid Shaheed, because we didn't see him at practice all week. You can probably take him off your fantasy team at this point for this Sunday because he is probably not going to play. Juwan Johnson is one that's kind of a question mark for me. I think he is truly questionable. It could go either way. Pete Werner is likely going to be back, as you mentioned. Blake Grupe, likely going to be fine. Chris Olave, from what we heard today, he's going to try to play. Now, depending on how he's feeling, will depend on the type of play the Saints get from him. Nick Saldiveri, though, was a new addition to the practice report. He's questionable to play.
Inactive anyway, so
but
let's put him on the won't play list.
Probably on the won't play list as well. And then Taysom Hill, we did not see all week in practice. He's the most glaring to me. And we've got a full segment later on in the show for Taysom Hill and if he will or not play.
If we're just predicting whether he plays or not, he's in the
it's not looking good
camp.
Yeah, we will get to that a little bit later. But before we dive into our key matchups, because that's, of course, our big show on Friday that we all do, let's take a look at how the quarterbacks performed in week 2. If we can go ahead and take that graphic that we have. When the Saints beat the Panthers in Carolina 20-17, Derek Carr hardly used the middle of the field. You can see that here with this graphic. I feel like this is when we probably started talking about this, right, guys? That he was not using the middle of the field much at the beginning of the season.
Yeah,
this kind of kickstarted that conversation.
Definitely kickstarted it. Shout out to Brandon Thomas on the graphic. That thing looks amazing. Look, this was the thing, and it was kind of a big issue in the beginning of the season, and they've made a concerted effort, I think, to try to get the middle of the field going throughout the season, and we have seen those numbers go up, but I still don't think that they are good enough in that area of the field at all. And it's just like a lot of those routes. I just think that they haven't ever really gotten the timing down on, the slants, the crossers, all that stuff that the Saints used to do over the middle of the field. Like I said, they've tried to get it going, and they just haven't gotten it going the way they wanted to. Some of this is also just kind of attacking what they're giving you a little bit, too. And I think just kind of the way Carolina plays lends itself to that. But I think you do have to open up the middle of the field to be at your best. But their best middle of the field options right now probably are not going to be playing. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see a heavy dose of the stuff to the outside again.
That game feels like a world ago.
I know.
That was a game where we felt like they went a little vanilla because they could. Because Carolina wasn't scoring. The final score was 20-17, but didn't Carolina score like on the last minute of the game? Because I remember we had that stat where the Saints defense
Carolina was rallying at the end of that game.
Saints defense almost went 2 full games without giving up a touchdown. So Saints were leading handily for most of that game, and they didn't have to get very aggressive. But little did we know that it was a sign of it just wasn't going to be an explosive offense for weeks to come. So. A lot of things, even on defense, I kind of remember their defensive game plan feeling conservative, but they had 4 sacks in that game, so it ultimately worked. But yeah, that's absolutely right. I think the Saints have learned a lot since then, that they can't just be the manage the clock and will win a lot of games offense. They need a lot more than that this time around.
I agree. All right, let's get to our key matchups. The first one, Brian Burns versus Ryan Ramczyk. And this one actually led our key matchups back in week 2 when we did – this was our first live show, I believe, on site. Was in Carolina.
Right.
So we've come a long way since then. Brian Burns has come a long way since week 2. Brian Burns, going into the week 2 matchup, had typically been going up against team's right tackles. It was the Brian Burns versus Ryan Ramczyk game in week 2. But since then, Brian Burns has kind of moved all over. He's come across the left and the right side of the line. We expect to see the same. And so Andres Pete, who has been at left tackle, might get his work cut out for him this week. Burns has 6 sacks this season. You have a quarterback in concussion protocol who needs to stay upright, especially since Carr has had 2 concussions in the last month. Who do you see winning this matchup?
Well, winning the matchup, I mean, Brian, you're not going to keep Brian Burns at bay for the entire game. So the question is, I mean, always an offensive lineman. I mean, win 70 of the 75 snaps and have a fighting chance. But no, I think Brian Burns is going to get his in this game once or twice. You just need to limit that damage. It's interesting. We talked last week about would teams go away against from their tendencies when they play the Saints, because the Saints have a more proven right tackle than left tackle. Aiden Hutchinson, for the most part, stayed against Ryan Ramczyk. He did move over to the left a while. Same thing with Brian Burns. He was mostly staying against Ramczyk and didn't move over to the left as much as we would expect. I would think teams would move guys over to the left even more than they do, but the teams have not been afraid to leave their best guys there and challenge them. So I think Ryan Ramczyk will have the heavy lifting to do in this matchup.
I think it might be a little fascinating to see what they do, because that was the Burns tendency coming into the season, and now throughout the season it's almost been like a 50-50 split. And you look at like the heat map of where he's lining up, it has changed. So I would be surprised. Like, I think their tendency has shifted, but it could definitely be the other way. So it's going to be a fascinating thing to see. If they move him around, I think it's a problem, and it's something that they're going to have to solve. So, yeah, I mean, this is the biggest thing in this game, though, because Derek Carr's ability or inability to handle pressure is kind of things that decides games. And we saw that on the very first pass in the last game. He's in the pocket for 4.5 seconds. You see his head and eyes shift to A.T. Perry on that first play, the interception to Juwan Johnson, and you can see it. If you have the good coaches film where you can see both end zone views, you can literally see his eyes on it. And he was going to go there, and then he sees what he thinks is pressure going to be coming, and he flees the pocket and kind of throws a pass on the run to Juwan. Juwan absolutely has to catch that ball. The pick is not on Derek Carr, but I think that there is criticism on not being able to get that pass out, and it was the pressure that affected him. And that was maybe the quintessential example of pressure just kind of, or even the threat of pressure, more specifically, how it affects him. That showed up right there. So that is something that I think is a huge deal, and definitely, Burns has to be a guy that's kept in check.
Yeah.
He's going to have to be, especially with Ryan Ramczyk still on the injury list, dealing with that knee injury. We'll see what happens. Brian Burns has had a down year as far as based on his career, but still he's going to bring pressure all day in the Superdome when the Panthers come on to take on the Saints. All right, getting to our next matchup, Alontae Taylor versus Adam Thielen. This is another one that we had in week 2, but how this one has changed is the Saints have been getting torched by these bigger wide receivers, especially tight ends this season. Adam Thielen's numbers have been down. He only had 3 receptions for 25 yards last week. In week 12, he just had 1 catch. So he hasn't had a receiving touchdown since week 6. He's still top 10 in receptions across the NFL of wide receivers, but this is going to be a tall task for Alontae Taylor and in general the secondary, who is down Marcus May and Marshall Lattimore.
Well, you say Adam Thielen's numbers are down from when he was all of a sudden prime Adam Thielen for the first 10 weeks of the season. He was the top 1 or 2 receiver in catch statistics halfway through the season. So they like to target him. I think teams have probably done a good job of taking him away. But this is 2 matchups you've started off with in this matchup show that I don't think favor the Saints. I mean, Brian Burns is a handful. And Adam Thielen, Alontae Taylor has shown good moments this year, but I think inconsistency. I think if I was another team, that is the area of the field where I'd want to attack the Saints secondary without question.
Yeah, he's definitely someone that I think you got to try to go out. He hasn't been at his best the last couple of weeks, and I think he kind of needs to lock in a little bit. And Thielen's someone that's tactical enough to kind of play that, and I don't think the over-aggression has been a huge thing with Alontae this year. I really do think that he's kind of reeled that in quite a bit from last year, and he's much more under control. But I think there's still inconsistencies in the way he covers the slot, and you got to remember, he's just a handful of games into this, first time he's ever done it, so there are going to be ups and downs still. But I think that he's kind of gotten a little bit shaky the last couple of weeks, so that's exactly where I'd be going with the ball. But Yadam, too. I mean, Yadam's someone that I'm going at consistently. So there are things, if Bryce Young clicks, like there are areas to go against them, and the slot is prime targeting for me if I'm the quarterback.
All right, to our next matchup, Chris Olave versus J.C. Horn. J.C. Horn has been ramping up this week. He did not play in week 2. He just returned last week from a 10-week layoff. Chris Olave dealing with the flu. Could this be the flu game for Chris Olave? We will see. Chris Olave had a season-high receiving yards in Week 13. He had 5 catches for 119 receiving yards in last week's loss. That is his 7th career 100-yard game. This is one of those where it could, to me, could go either way between who wins this matchup, Chris Olave or J.C. Horn, given Chris Olave is going to probably be affected by not practicing on Thursday and Friday and dealing with the flu, and J.C. Horn coming back from injury.
If he can come back, though, he's pumping the fluids, he's doing all this stuff. He was in the locker room today. It looks like he's doing okay. You could tell he was sick for sure, but I do like the matchup for the Saints a lot. If they're putting J.C. Horn on Olave, like missing 2 practices is probably better than missing the last 10 weeks. So look, I think he's locked in. I think he's been kind of incredible the last couple games. I think that we're seeing the superstar that we thought we were going to see the whole entire season worked his way through, the obvious patch of adversity, all the talk, the arrest, the kind of some of the weird effort on routes, like all that stuff is in the past, and he's just playing really, really well right now. If he can shake back by Sunday from this illness, and he's young, I like his odds of shaking back better than like a Cam Jordan from something like this. So I think there's a good chance we're going to see him out there playing and being, whatever it needs to be at full strength.
You're right. Last game was as good as any game I think he's played in the Saints uniform, too. Some of the high degree of difficulty and effort on those catches. It'll be really interesting. We didn't see J.C. Horn in Week 2. We didn't see J.C. Horn in Week 18 last season either. The only time J.C. Horn has gone against the Saints offense with Chris Olave, and it was Week 3 last year, and he didn't shadow Chris Olave because they had Mike Thomas still healthy in that game, too. And I don't think they shadowed either one of them. Seemed like he covered Thomas a little more than Olave, but it didn't look like they were shadowing. But Horn does shadow on occasion, has shadowed on occasion in the past. So if they think he was healthy enough to know that he was going to play a full game worth of snaps, I think that's something you do. If you look at a team that has Chris Olave and then A.T. Perry, Lynn Bowden, Keith Kirkwood, and you've got a corner like that, I think that's a game where you'd shadow. I think that it'll come down to how healthy they think J.C. Horn is. If they could game plan for him definitely playing a full game's worth of snaps this week. I think he played 32 snaps last week. So.
Yeah, he's still in that ramp-up period. All right, moving on to our next matchup. Saints safeties versus Bryce Young. We saw the Saints kind of disguise some things against the rookie quarterback, and it did affect him a little bit in Week 2. He only threw for 153 passing yards, 1 touchdown. He was sacked 4 times. He's had 0 interceptions in 3 of his past 4 road starts, and he's going up against now an even more depleted Saints secondary. So this is one of those two. You don't expect to see this just great performance by Bryce Young just out of the blue, out of nowhere from this Panthers offense. But if there's one thing the Saints defense has shown us and has taught us time and time again this season is they've been able to make these young quarterbacks who haven't necessarily had the best seasons shine somehow in the Superdome.
Yeah, and look, the thing, no Marcus May, I think that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
What did you kind of see from Jordan Howden in the last game, and how do you feel about him being the starter?
I think he's gotten to a point now where he's not trying to play perfect, and he's willing to just kind of let the game come to him a little bit. And that happens with rookies. They start out trying to make every little thing right, and the mistakes happen, as Joe Woods has mentioned to us time and time again. I think it's just a hard spot for this secondary to be in, because when Jordan Howden was in, you had guys like Marshawn Lattimore in, and all these other guys around him that were healthy. You probably felt a little bit more confident, especially with Tyrann Mathieu next to you. Now you are missing some guys. Is Pete Werner going to be back? He is questionable. He should be back. But in my opinion, Jordan Howden has made a step forward, but not enough for me to say, oh, the Saints are great at safety. They're going to be just fine.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a little bit more vulnerable than May. Mm-hmm. You know, I think we saw some stuff get busted, and that I think that's part of just young players in there. And that's a great point. Like, it's easier to be a rookie in a defense of vets.
Absolutely.
Now you take out some of these vets, and you're a guy that has to cover for other people instead of other people maybe covering for you a little bit. So it's trial by fire a little bit with him. And I'm not necessarily super worried in this game against this Carolina passing offense based on some of the stuff that, we've seen and some of the struggles they have. But for sure, I think that there's a target on him in every single game.
If they let Bryce Young have a big game, I mean, it's the biggest indictment on this team all year, and that's saying a lot. I mean, it just has not happened for Bryce Young all year long. It's not like it's been inconsistent. It's not like there have been flashes. I think he's gone over 200 yards like 3 times. Mm-hmm. He's averaging 187 passing yards a game. He's averaging less than a touchdown a game. That's part offensive line. That's part weapons. That's part coaching. They had Frank Reich give play calling duties to the offensive coordinator, then take him back, then get fired. I mean, this offense has been stuck in the mud all year. The Saints better not let them get going. And, of course, one other thing we have to mention with Bryce Young, he had 2 big runs that they let him escape for in that game. Can't let him get comfortable doing that either. But the key to the game, which you're going to get to soon, is they have to stop the run so that Bryce Young becomes an important part of this game. They can't let Carolina shield Bryce Young from being part of this game.
Yeah, that's arguably our biggest matchup this week. Saints run defense versus Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders. Chuba Hubbard had a season-high 104 rushing yards in his first career game with 2 rushing touchdowns. Miles Sanders, he's kind of been up and down this season. 8 carries for 23 yards against the Bucs. Not a whole lot of production there last week, but the Saints are 24th in run defense. They're giving up an average of 125.5 rushing yards per game. They held the Panthers to 100 rushing yards in week 2, but if I'm the Panthers, I'm running the ball at the Saints all game based on what we've seen.
If you watch the Atlanta game, if you watch the Detroit game, what's stopping you?
Yeah.
And that's what the Panthers do anyway. I think rock bottom for this team was the first quarter of Detroit, but I think the worst thing that happened to this team all year, the most spirit draining thing, was we talked all week, they talked all week, everyone knew that Atlanta was like, we're only good at one thing, running the ball. We don't want our quarterback to throw the ball once, so you got to stop us from running. And the Saints were like, we know we have to stop you from running, and they couldn't do it. I mean, it's the exact same thing in this game. This team's not as good at running the ball as Atlanta is, but Chuba Hubbard has been pretty good. He's supplanted Miles Sanders as their lead runner, and if they're going to stay in this game, it's because they're going to stubbornly try to keep running the ball. And I'm worried about the Saints' run defense. I don't like what I've seen from them this year up front. Getting Pete Werner back, Cam Jordan being healthier will help. Nick's pointed out that the injuries in the secondary have hurt the run defense a little bit too. No Marshawn, no Marcus May. But, man, oh, man, if Carolina can come in here and run the ball and control the line of scrimmage and control the time of possession and move the ball and win the field position battle, that's like the stick, the fork in the defense moment if that happens, I think.
Yeah, look, if it's 3rd and 6 or shorter, I'm spreading them out and running a draw maybe every single time, until they can show they can stop it, because they can't. And that run defense is so soft right now that I would just go at it the whole entire game. I would not throw unless I felt dictated to throw. There's no other hope. If there's a chance of running, I'm running it, and I'd take my chances there. It's just.
Detroit
really
did that last
now.
week. Was it 3rd and 7 on the opening series? They went run again, and it's like
it's the most demoralizing thing you can do to a team. Yeah, that's just where they're at, though.
Yeah, it is. But Carolina Panthers, they only have 1 win, and a lot of people are going to be asking me. People in the chat that are asking too. What is their? I mean, what do you gain by putting your young quarterback in a situation who's undersized and is putting him in a position to run and potentially get hurt? That's probably another way to look at it too, is are we really going to see Bryce Young have a lot of
It was only
runs?
2 runs, but it was 2 runs for 28 yards or something. It's
Pick your
just
spots.
every team has had those 2 against them almost until Jared Goff finally had a quarterback who didn't bother running. He just threw it to his tight end 9 times for 140 yards instead.
And it worked. That's another run defense and playing tight ends or just bigger wide receivers. It has been a serious problem. All right, we're going to hit a quick break, but when we come back, we hear from you, our NOF audience, with our question of the day. Coach Nick is back with his best play of the game from last week. And, of course, we got our game predictions right after this.
'Tis the season for gumbo combos at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company. Enjoy our hot gumbo, fries, and your choice of shrimp, catfish, soft-shell crab, or frog legs starting at $9.99. That's right, $9.99 at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company.
No loan payments for 90 days with local financing from Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union on your next auto, boat, RV, ATV, or motorcycle. That's right, no loan payments for 90 days when you close your loan by December 31st. Jefferson Financial offers easy-to-use online applications, fast decisions, and local personalized service. The financial products you want with the convenience you deserve. We are Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union. Apply online at jeffersonfinancial.org. Federally insured by NCUA.
At Toro, we were born for moments like this. From bringing new bundles of joy into the world to delivering what new mothers need to stay healthy. Born to keep hearts beating strong and to keep seniors active and healthy for years to come. Because at Turo, we deliver more than babies. From heart care to cancer care and newborns to seniors, at Turo, we're born to care.
Hey, Brad, I got you something I think you're really going to like for your gift this year.
What? Is this one of those Martin's exclusive bourbon bottles?
Picked it out just for you.
Maya, this is awesome. But I think you're going to love the gift I got you a little bit more.
Wow. Mega Wine generic brand vodka. Brad, you shouldn't have.
Not to mention it.
No, Brad, you shouldn't have.
Look, small batch, smooth, soft spice.
I'll take a New Orleans Saints scratch up. Play New Orleans Saints from the lottery. Just scratch, fold, and punch your way to winnings. Punch your ticket with New Orleans Saints. Win up to $100,000. Enter our second chance drawings, giving you a season to smile.
Welcome back to the Mobile Toro Hospital studio. Joining you live in PJ's Coffee, and we just had some breaking news. Derek Carr has cleared concussion protocol, according to Nick Underhill. Kind of what we talked about at the beginning of the show. We expected him to play, but what does it mean now that he's officially out of it moving forward this weekend?
I mean, I think it's probably, people are going to be up in arms, whatever. I think it's the best thing for the team. I think he's a starting quarterback. They have a better chance of him winning. He's a starting quarterback for a reason. He finished the last game 15-15. I just think they have a better chance of winning this game. They practiced all week with him as a starter, and that's part of the reason I'm saying that, because, if you thought there was any chance that he wouldn't play, putting him in that position would have been insane, and you're putting yourself at an extreme disadvantage by not getting Jameis Winston ready. They weren't getting Jameis Winston ready. So if something would have happened to where Derek hadn't cleared today, I think you're in a potentially, disaster is a strong, but an extreme disadvantage situation because you didn't make the effort to get Jameis ready for the game. So their information told him Derek was going to be the starter. He was going to be ready to go. He is ready to go. It gives him the best chance to win. We'll see, though. We'll see. He has to play, I think, better and more consistent than he has the whole entire season. And at some point, that process has to start, and hopefully it's this week.
Yeah, I mean, we dissected that play where he missed A.T. Perry and threw the interception that bounced off Juwan Johnson's hands. But in general, this was kind of a good game for him this last game before he got hurt. I think they followed with a 3-and-out, and then boom, 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 Detroit has 21 points. But from that point on, he played pretty well. I agree. I mean, I think Jameis Winston deserves more of a fair shake than just coming in to games, in a hurry when they're down by 2 touchdowns. But Jameis Winston hasn't necessarily, he definitely hasn't played better than Derek Carr this year. So I agree. The guy you've been preparing, the guy that you've been game planning around, the guy you have the most faith in is Derek Carr in this game. So they're getting their choice, and that's the best case scenario for them.
Depending on what quarterback was playing in this game, it was going to be a tall task. No Michael Thomas, no Rashid Shaheed, and it looks like no Taysom Hill, which gets to our moment of the day presented by New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company. Taysom Hill did not practice for a third straight day. We did get a little bit more clarity because he is on the injury report for a hand/foot. Sounds like it's more of the foot injury that's the problem and not necessarily the hand injury. So as far as pass catching, his hand's fine, but with the foot being a problem, you wonder if it's that Liz Frank coming back and being an issue, because that put Taysom down for a while.
That is, yeah, I mean, that is something I was thinking about. I don't think it's that serious, but, like, you know, he has had foot issues. So him having a foot issue and DA saying that's the bigger thing, it does become a little bit more concerning that we're in a little bit of a dark situation on what it actually is. But I was concerned about that when I heard it, because same thing as you. Like, I saw the hand wrapped up and all that stuff, and I thought it was a hand thing and not the foot was the secondary. That being the leading cause is something to keep an eye on. If Taysom isn't available, like every week that he's not available, I think that's a massive issue, because he is arguably the MVP of the team, and you know, his production per snap is very high value to this team. So taking him out of the mix, not a good situation.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it all the time. They don't use him enough, but they finally had started using him a lot in recent weeks, and I guess this is the response to why don't you give Taysom Hill 15 carries a game. We had 13 carries in last week's game, and he ends up with 2 injuries as a result. So it's unfortunate. I mean, I guess you go to a traditional run game, and they do have Alvin Kamara and the woefully underused Jamal Williams, or, you know, for whatever reason Jamal Williams is underused. Maybe he doesn't earn the carries, but, I mean, I think that's where they zag, is they become a team that has the passing game, the running game, and not the Taysom game. But I think that's a big loss for this offense. It's one of the few things that has consistently worked for them throughout the year.
Yeah, the Mike Triplett stat is taking a hit this week.
2 weeks in a row.
Taysom Hill is out. Not going to be good. All right, the iPad is out. That means Coach Nick is back with our money segment presented by Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union with the play of the week. All right, let's go back to that Detroit Lions game. I know some of you fans that are watching don't want to, but Nick has hopefully found something positive to break down.
Oh, we found something positive. I love this play. Definitely a good one for the team. And it's kind of like a sequel to last week, you know, just kind of highlighting some of the stuff that Pete Carmichael's doing to isolate some of these matchups and these safeties and kind of putting them at a disadvantage to make things a little bit easier for Derek Carr and the offense, and that's kind of what you always want your OC to be able to do. So we're going to get this drawn up here. We got Chris Olave here, and this is the long gain to Olave, and it definitely, it was a great play. The adjustment at the end I thought was the best thing about it. But we're going to get this drawn up here. We got him going there. We got Jawan Johnson here on the out route. You got A.T. Perry here, and this is the key. This route right here is the key to the whole entire play. The Perry route is a huge play for them. And then you got the route on the outside here. And then Alvin comes up. He's going to, fake like he's blocking a little bit. I did that backwards. Got the block right there, and then he kind of spills out into the flat. And you know, the guys that kind of keep an eye on here, you want to keep an eye on the safety, because this safety is going to get just kind of hemmed up a little bit by these routes, and he's going to get put in a decision where he has to choose, and then that choice determines everything. So you got, again, Jawan going here underneath the Olave route, which is going to go up the outside, but it's this A.T. Perry route right here that just kind of takes care of everything. And then, again, you have Bowden out here. So you got Bowden out here. You got Olave here. These are the two guys. Carr just has to kind of read the safety a little bit, and he's going to go to one or the other, but he's going to have the one-on-one just because of the way they're kind of attacking the middle of the field. And you just kind of get this whole bunch here, so you get the whole outside areas on both sides that's just wide open for the quarterback. Continuing on to the next one, and you just see it right here how it's coming together. You got Chris breaking to the outside on the nice route, and then he just continues up the field. You got Bowden here. So Carr can go pretty much either spot, because look at this. Again, the mess of traffic in the middle. So you get the safety just jammed up there. They play this terribly. I don't understand why they kind of got the double team on AT, but you got that right there. You got all this area here. If the safety's, shading a little bit more over here. So that would have been wide open, but, he's on this side of the field just starting to get his hips turned around. Right away. You see Carr going for it right there. There's some pressure coming up the middle. This is one of the plays where he does a really good job of handling the pressure. I mean, he is getting nailed as he throws this thing. And that's why it ends up kind of being shorted a little bit, because he had to short arm it on the follow-through to kind of get the ball out and protect himself. But he gets it out there. There's enough velocity, enough air underneath it that the pass gets there. But, this isn't something that you see Derek do consistently, but he can do it. And that's kind of one of the reasons that it's frustrating to watch him, because he can stand in there, he can take a hit, he can throw it. He's big, he's strong, he's always got the biceps out. Like, he's not a little guy. Like, he's advertising his muscle mass. If you stand in there and take some of them hits, look, he gets beat up, though. He's got a lot of injuries. But the fact that he kind of bails on that stuff since getting that foot injury with the Raiders, I think it's kind of affected him in there. And there's a clear before and after with that. But he can do it. He can take them hits and get them throws out and keep on ticking. And just too often you don't see it happen the way it should. This Olave adjustment is incredible. And, in motion, it looks even better. But a good shot here. He comes back, catches it. He could have easily, without that pressure, I think the throw leads him to the end zone. But the adjustment to make this catch, that the vision, the ability to turn while you're going full speed, get back around, make the play, hang on to the ball, with the guy coming at you and not, T-Rexing it by, kind of tightening up and being afraid of contact or anything like that. A really, really key moment on this play, and just one of the better adjustments you're going to see. I mean, it was a really incredible play for him to make. So that is the end of the segment. But going back to the beginning, this stuff they're doing a good job of getting some of these, and they're not overly complicated plays here. Like, they're just doing a great job every now and then of getting these big plays set up against these single high looks where they're just putting the safety just kind of in a blender with the way they're attacking them. And it just kind of makes that easy, like, okay, which way's the safety shading? I'm going the other way with it. And we've seen Carmichael dial these up at the right moments the last, few weeks. And, I think the odds of everybody surviving in the next season are very low. I don't think we're going to see the whole coaching staff back. But credit where credit is due. I think Pete Carmichael's doing a better job of calling some of these games the last handful of weeks. And they're starting to figure things out a little bit. And, feel how you want about that. I'm not vouching for anyone to stay, like I said, but credit where credit's due. Like, we were on his ass early in the season about all this stuff, and I think a lot of this stuff has turned around a little bit. Last 2 weeks, 6 play action attempts, second highest total of the season on both those games. Like, they're doing things better than we have seen them earlier in the season, and you gotta give credit where it's due. So shout out to them for starting to figure some of these things out a little bit. Offense needs to be significantly better than it has been, but there are signs of it, improving in different areas. And
you wonder if the defense gets off to better starts, if the Saints are winning some of these games based on some of the plays that Pete Carmichael is throwing in there. I mean, this is a defense that we're just not used to seeing.
It's such a shame that the offense has shown improvement while the defense has started to crater. And we also said this earlier this week. I think I said it'd be the number one key to victory is let the Saints offense play with the lead. And, there's no better friend for an offense than getting a chance to play with the lead. And the Saints have, done it not at all this entire season.
Yep.
A big part of that will be Alvin Kamara this Sunday. He is our fantasy segment presented by the Louisiana Lottery. Last time around, like we mentioned at the beginning of the show, was the Tony Jones game because Alvin was still serving his 3-game suspension. So could we see Alvin Kamara have a big game Sunday with Taysom Hill potentially out? All right, over under 25 touches for Alvin Kamara.
Oh, wow, that's a big one, 25.
But you think about it. Think about just the volume of guys that are out right now. Are you trusting...
I wanted to say over until you did a good Vegas there.
Would you trust your practice squad wide receivers over Alvin Kamara?
No,
I mean, that's fair, right?
I think we're going to see a lot of touches. I mean, like I said, I mentioned Jamal Williams' name earlier. I'll take the over on whatever. I'll say season-high touches for Jamal Williams, too. I mean, you brought him here for a reason. Let's have him get involved as well. But I'll take over 20 for Alvin. Over 25 is a tough bet to make, but I think you set the line at the right place. I mean, that is the kind of game they want to play. They want to play a game where they're leading and running the ball. And the way Alvin has been playing lately, he's like, get on my back, and I'm going to try to win this game for us. So he'll invite that, and they would love to see it. If the game plays out and allows them to get him 25 touches, that's a good sign.
We've seen him go over 25 touches this year.
That's where the line should be set. I mean, it is exactly where the line should be set. The last 4 games, Jacksonville, 29 touches in that game.
Yep.
Yeah, 29 touches in that game. The next week against Houston, he had 19 carries, 7 receptions, 26. The next week, I'm going backwards to the beginning of the season against New England. He had 22 carries, 3 receptions, Tampa Bay, 24 touches. Last week against Detroit, 22 touches. Atlanta, 20 touches. It's just kind of when they're winning games and they're doing what they want to do and they're attacking Indianapolis, 22 touches, like 23 touches. So it's where the line, like when I first seen that, I was like 25. And then I looked, I was like, oh, 25. Like that is how they're using them this year. So I'm going to take the over. I mean, I think that's where, and I think it's not to because like you said, practice squad receivers, the team is so depleted. I think that you have to get him. No Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
Like he's going to get all the red zone carries. They want to run the ball in the red zone.
22 last week, even though Taysom had 15. So
exactly.
So
that's why I inflated it a little bit this
It's not
week.
even inflated, though. Like that's just
well,
the number.
He's hit over 25.
That is
25
is, I think, the number when everybody is healthy. Like I think it's just like they didn't use him maybe this much as before, but like this is where he lives now. So I'm taking the over on it.
Yeah, I'm taking the over as well. All right, let's get to our Martin's question of the day. Martin's is home to a wide selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martin's, so much more than just wine. Speaking of running backs, that's where we get to our question of the day. How many runs will Jamal Williams get in the last few games? Did we get last year's best TD running back to use him as a blocker?
Yeah, I mean, they've showed us that. that is like he's just kind of not – he's not really part of it. So – like Mike said, maybe some of the depletion this week gets him in the game. What would a season high carries even be? I don't know. Someone look it up while I'm yapping. Like I don't even know what it would be. But yeah, I think that this would probably be a week to get him involved a little bit. But I just don't think that we're going to see that from him. I don't think that's what he's. I don't think that's his role on this team right now. I just don't think that they have a high incentive to use him. Alvin's getting a ton of carries. He's effective.
He feels like the Taysom Hill.
There's no way this is right. Did he have 18 carries last week?
No.
This stat's got to be wrong.
He did not have 18 carries last week. No.
Against...
No.
That was looking at a different year.
Beginning of the season. We're looking at a different... I was like...
I just did the same thing. No, he had 5 last week. Yeah. I did the same thing reading the Alvin stats. Yeah.
But,
I know. Here we go.
I thought he would be more involved against Detroit, his old team, and a little bit of a revenge factor, but he was useless in that game. But Taysom is...
He had 18 against Tennessee. Beyond
in the first game when there was no Alvin.
Everything's been like 5 to 6, yeah.
But he feels like the guy who they turn to with no Taysom. I mean, they're not going to turn to Kendre Miller. Lynn Bowden might play a dual role and get some runs, but his runs are a little bit more like when a receiver runs the ball, not line up in the backfield and pound away. So I would think any carries being taken away from Taysom Hill might be divvied up between Alvin and Jamal. I mean, it'd be great. It'd be great if they could get him to double digits in this game because Alvin's getting over 20 and he's getting over 10. That's the kind of game they want to play.
Yeah.
Let me set the line here. 8 carries, over under.
Over in order to keep Alvin from having to carry the team on his back this week.
What do you got?
That's a good line. 8 carries means I'm predicting a win. That's the next segment. I don't know if I'm there yet, but I'll go over 8 touches, not 8 carries though.
I'm under. I'm just going to go the
I'm under the 8 carries, but I think he can get 8 touches. Throw it to him a couple times. Yeah.
All right, the best segment of this show. We always end our Fridays with a game prediction. I'll go first. I can't live in a world where I pick the 1-win Panthers to beat the New Orleans Saints in the Superdome this weekend. I know both teams are playing terribly right now. I think the Saints are playing a little bit better than the Panthers right now. We did see some promising things in the second and third quarter from Derek Carr. You showed the one play. I'm not saying that we're going to see this entirely new team, but I just cannot imagine a scenario where the Panthers beat the Saints. The scenario is you've got all these players out. How will that affect things? But I don't know. It's just
I'll go second, just so I don't belabor the point. Like I agree with everything you just said. Like I have to pick them. I have to pick them to win this game.
I don't agree with. I can't imagine a scenario.
It's just the injuries. That's the scenario.
I can imagine scenarios. I forgot what it looked like to watch the Saints win. I'm picking the Saints to win, but I can absolutely imagine a scenario where they don't because they usually don't win football games anymore, even against lesser teams. I mean, we see. I need to be reminded of what a Saints win looks like. I really do.
I don't think it's going to be a blowout win, though.
No.
I don't think we're. I think we're probably going to see two teams struggle to score points. Why are you laughing? Nick's just laughing over here.
Mike said they don't usually win football games anymore.
They don't. They're a 5-17 that started 2-0.
It's
that's 3 out of 10.
Oh man.
Oh man.
It's just going to be bad on bad, and whoever can.
No, look.
The Saints should win this
part
game.
of our frustration, part of the fans' frustration is, part of the players' frustration is, we believe there's good players and a good football team.
Never
in here
denying
yet,
that.
but we haven't seen it except for maybe the second half against Indianapolis. The offense and the defense looking good in a game. They're overdue.
At the
I'd love
same
to
time,
see it.
at the same time, it's
I'd
been a
love to see
minute.
it. Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yep.
Score prediction? Do we even go there?
No, I don't.
It was 20-13, the final in week 2.
20-17, right?
2017, yes. 20-17, with Tony Jones Jr. being the responsible guy on getting them on the board with 2 touchdowns.
I'll play the game. What the hell? 23-16. Saints.
Okay.
20-17 Saints. Same score.
I'm leaning more toward that.
Right.
And Blake Grupe should be okay. He is questionable, but
he's
practiced
starting.
fully.
He's starting. They cut the other kicker. He's good to go.
Did I say 20? Hold on. I should go with 19. Let's go with 4.
Just field goals?
4 field goals and a touchdown.
It?
No.
It's a possibility.
Hey, the Saints went 4 for 4 in the red zone last week.
They sure did. We will see what happens on Sunday. And, of course, if you haven't joined us for our live pregame show, we're taking all of your question and answers on our live pregame show that we will have on Sunday from the Superdome. Usually starts about 9:30. We will be live publicly on YouTube for the first 15-ish minutes, and then we will go to our members only, about 40 to 45 minutes, where we are showing you access of the field, guys warming up, giving you live updates as we wait for the inactives. Sometimes we're still up when the inactives come out. We're able to bring that to you first. So be sure to join us Sunday live on NewOrleans.Football. We'll see you guys there.